This is Comic Books This Week with Dr. Stanford Carpenter and myself, Hannibal Tabu. And what's funny, I forgot to record a lot of that, so that's fine. But so we were talking about Spider-Man No Way Home, but like I said, by the time this video gets out, it'll be super old news. Let's move on to actual comic books from actually this week. Where should we begin, Stanford?
You know what? Since they managed to actually have a week come out where they weren't all Batman books, let's go to DC first.
All right.
You know, of course, it was a week when really not much came out, but still, there was only, the only Batman book is the only Batman book that I read is the one we're going to start with, and that's Robin #9.
That is definitely not the only Batman book that came out this week, but yes, that's true. There were actually
I said the only Batman book that I was going to deal with.
There were like 3 or 4 other Batman related books that came out this week.
Right, but 4 Batman books, that's a light week for DC.
Ooh, yeah, because I've seen them go as high as 12. But anyway, what did you think about? Wait, what book are we talking about? I forgot.
Robin #9.
Right.
We're moving further along of the whole fighting above the Lazarus Pit and yada yada yada. You know, the endless death fights where everybody comes back to life.
Yeah, that happened. That's true.
As much as, I used to think I would do anything to see a Connor Hawke story.
They did you dirty, man. They did you dirty.
I used to. But reading Robin, I don't know.
Oh, wow. I never thought I would see you in a meatloaf thing. You would do anything for Connor, but you won't do that. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the problem is they really dragged this out. I just feel like we've been through too much to get so not far.
Yeah, this is like maybe 4 issues that we've gotten out of 9 worth of content. Yeah.
And this whole thing of like the ending where, where Robin gets shunted off. I mean, yeah, that we could have gotten there in 3 issues, because here's the thing. I mean, we've had entire issues that were just people fighting each other.
Yep.
Without even any character development to go along with it. It was just like, oh, okay, let's throw another punch. Oh, let's throw a kick. And it was just, and I get you're trying to show us that these are the best fighters in the DCU, but you can't say it's the best fighters of the DCU without the Bronze Tiger, without Batman, without
Shiva.
Without Shiva.
Yeah, this is like Gen Z best fighters.
Right. And I think that really that is something I could have overlooked if it was like 3, 4 issues, but 8.
Well, you also had to when the plan was ultimately revealed, Shiva would not be in no shenanigans like this. You're not gonna get Batman up for this. These are the best fighters you can get for this stupid plan.
Right. Exactly.
Sorry, Connor.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and it's also weird, like the way because this is the first time we're really seeing Connor Hawke in this version of the DCU, right? And this re-entry it's weird because he makes reference to knowing that he's Green Arrow's son, but we haven't seen him function as Green Arrow's son in this version of the DCU.
Hyper time.
Oh yeah, hyper time. Never mind.
Everything happened.
I forgot to hyper my mind up for this one.
Yeah, it's fine. Like Basil Exposition said in the Austin Powers, don't worry about that, Austin. Just try to go have fun and don't think about
it. Yes. Well, as far as that goes, we're not having fun, so let's do the second thing and not think about it.
This will be a mess for me.
Yeah, same here. Human Target #3.
Now, Human Target #3. Now, that's a book. That's a comic book.
That's more than a book. That's something else.
You remember how many times...
I never thought...
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, I'm still hung up on the color palette. I can't believe that you sold me on that color palette for a superhero book.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fantastic trick. It's a great gag, and they're pulling it relentlessly without any any punches. For me, I really think this is where Darwin Cook was heading when we lost him all too soon. This is an amazing. It feels like a period piece, but it's clearly not a period piece, and it's so beautiful and beautifully depicted. And for me, I think the cleverness, especially with the twist that happened in the third act, I'm like, the way that that's pulled off, perfectly in character for Chance, perfectly doing everything within the rules that the story has set up, is really elegantly done. I'm remembering all the times I've been hurt by Tom King stories before, and I'm like, oh no, this is more like The Vision. This is more back like when he loved me. Oh, this is beautiful.
Right.
I love this.
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking this is Miami Vice meets Burn Notice by way of the Rockford Files.
Oh, those are three things I really love.
Yeah.
Oh.
And those are three things that we don't quite think are going together.
Well,
Yeah.
Burn Notice was in Miami, so I could give you that much. But
Rockford Files.
yeah, Jim Rockford's a weird. But yeah, he is Jim Rockford. Wow. Wow, you're right. Oh my God, that's really dope. That's a really good perspective on that, Stanford. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I love about this is like he brought together so many things, and Guy Gardner as the creepy stalker boyfriend.
Yeah,
Was actually
he really
totally on point.
Yeah, he took all of the wind out of Toxic Masculinity with Guy Gardner. The whole little bit on is like, well, what do you know? The attitude, the smarm, the ultimate comeuppance of Guy Gardner. It all was so wonderfully done, especially because they also took time to do a fantastic send-up of Booster Gold. A fantastic, perfect send-up of Booster Gold using time traveling to get ingredients for bagels to open up his own bagel shop because that's the best possible idea he could come up with because he's a moron. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that too. I mean, I feel like I just felt like this is one of those things where like he's figured out his secret sauce for this particular run and it's working. I'm still afraid. I'm still a little worried because I'm worried that we're gonna do another turning what they did to Mr. Terrific.
Yeah.
I mean, so I've got that fear. I mean, I've been hurt, not just before, but badly.
Yeah. Oh no, you're which is fair. You're totally fair, and that's where this hangs up. That all of this is a mystery. There is a solution to that mystery. That mystery being solved is either sticking the landing or falling on his face. Is no in between.
Yup.
And while the difference is, for me, Strange Adventures, I didn't enjoy the ride. All along, I was like, this is stupid. This doesn't make any sense. But I'm enjoying every bit that I've seen thus far from Human Target.
Okay.
And if it lets me down at the end, then I'll be you. But if it lets me down, if it really comes through, then I'll be me at the end of Vision, which I think is literally one of the best comic book series that's been put out in 20 some odd years. It's amazing.
So you get to be either yourself or a bitter young Stanford.
God, I definitely want to be me. I definitely want that.
So I'm definitely putting Human Target on the buy pile.
Hard agree.
I mean, what's interesting is I was reading this, and while I was reading it, my partner walked by, and when she looked at it, she was like, "Oh, what's that?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was like, and she is a comic reader, but it was like this book is captivating. It's captivating not just if you're reading it, but it's captivating from a distance. Yeah.
It really it doesn't let you go, and that's a really good thing to say about this book. And like I said, it's literally a nail biter. I'm waiting with bated breath to see if it sticks the landing, and is the triumphant cheer or is the horrible oh no, it falls and hurts itself.
Yep. So how about Aquaman, Green Arrow, Deep Target number 3?
All right. I see what was trying to happen here, but from an execution standpoint, because I went back and reread the first couple pages, which does kind of a attempted Rashomon thing, looking at things from two different perspectives, and then it bops back and forth. But it uses the same panel fitting for when it steps out of that as for when it steps into that, and that's confusing to me. So I didn't like that. Also, the idea that Arthur Curry and Oliver Queen have body swapped, I don't care. I just, it doesn't make me care in any remote way. And this kind of like lizard man time traveling bad guy that they've got, I don't have any feeling for that person either. Everything that's happening here, I can see the craft. I can see like, okay, we're out here and we're doing this job and it's a great job. But the question is, should you be doing this job? Not are you doing a good job at the job that you're doing? Should you be doing it at all? And was that a good idea? And there, I'm not so convinced.
Well, I feel like this is one of those books where you have a whole bunch of competent pieces coming together and not equaling the sum of their parts.
Yes.
And I say that because the art's not bad. The art's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, everything, all the pieces are there, but quite frankly, they haven't delivered me They haven't delivered me a Green Arrow story, nor have they delivered me an Aquaman story.
True.
And that's what makes these body swap things work, right? When you see Green Arrow trying to live in an Aquaman world and Aquaman trying to live in a Green Arrow world.
Yes.
Right? So the tension that could be created out of having the body swap isn't there, so you're like, then why do we even do the body swap? Mm-hmm. So we've done a body swap and sent these characters into an adventure that really doesn't make sense in terms of either of their stories. So if you're gonna do what is essentially a fish out of water story, pardon the pun, then you got to have the actual fish be out of water, as opposed to telling a fish out of water with a monkey that was drowning coming out of the water story. And I know that's a lot of mixed metaphors, and I intentionally use that many mixed metaphors because that's what this book feels like. No. It feels like that person who is just giving me this really long mixed metaphor that I can't even remember where the metaphor started.
That's totally fair. And for me, it's worse by the fact that these are two blonde white guys. So I personally have to look. I'm like, yeah, that's Aquaman. Oh, wait, no, it's supposed to be Oliver Queen is Aquaman. Okay. Oh, wait, no, that's hard. Wait, no. So my brain keeps having to do this. Oh, wait. And with the lack of visual distinctiveness, I mean, if you're going to make this interesting, at least make it Jason Momoa Aquaman. At least flip it that way.
Here's something. If you're going to go with they all look alike kind of vibe, then do it with the up and coming new Aquaman who is black and Connor Hawke who is black, both of whom have blonde hair.
I can't believe we got back to you wanting another Connor Hawke so quickly. Wow, you really are devoted. Wow, that's really impressive.
I'm just making an observation here.
A self-serving observation.
Well, I mean,
I'm not mad. I'm like Anchorman. I'm not mad. I'm impressed.
I mean, and that's the thing. I feel like we've been given a story we didn't ask for, made up of parts that we don't care for, centering around characters that we kind of like.
Yeah, that's the roughest review for me. That would be a meh on my stand. It's like I don't feel strongly enough to be mad, and I don't feel good enough to recommend.
Yeah, meh. So, Aquaman Becoming, number 4.
Did I see that? I'm looking. I'm like, I don't remember seeing this book. Did I miss it? I don't think I saw this book. So what happened? What do we think about Aquaman and Becoming number 4? Because I know that a lot of people were really hyped about this book, and it had a lot of great elements. I know.
Well, okay. So what's happened is now he's in the company of his stepsister, who we didn't know about.
His what now?
Finding his stepsister.
Okay.
His sister. So I guess she's his older sister. This is one of the down parts of the book is I had trouble keeping track of the characters, and I don't know why, but for some reason I did. So he's with it. So his sister is. So it starts off. He's with his sister, And his mom, we found out that his mom is actually this, like, former violent protester from Zebel, and now we've also, it's getting more and more confusing the more I talk about it, right?
So wait,
But
she's a Zebel without a cause now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So previously, I guess we thought that she was just I don't know what we thought before, and this is the problem, right?
I don't know what we thought before. That's amazing.
And much of the story takes place as Aquaman, or the soon-to-be Aquaman, and his mom are being held captive while they're being semi-interrogated and semi-given the history. And by the time it's all over, Aquaman just stands up and says, "You know what? I ain't got time for any of y'all," and just walks away. And I thought that was the best ending for that story ever, because it was so convoluted. It was just like, I love how his reaction was just to walk away. And because of that reaction, that was the equivalent of sticking the landing in an otherwise boring routine.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, I haven't seen it, but what would you rate it? What would be your rating for that?
Well, okay, and I'll say the one thing that could have made this book better.
Connor Hawke?
Connor Hawke could have showed up and helped Aquaman out, and Connor and Aquaman could ride off in the sunset and go rescue that mess of a deep target duo.
I can't believe it. I love you so much.
The world needs Connor Hawke. Okay?
Oh God, you're a single issue voter. That's so hilarious. Okay.
I mean, the DCU needs Connor Hawke. I mean, we essentially tore down Mr. Terrific, my favorite character, and so now we're on to my second favorite character, as the only character I can stand.
Well, see, that's why I stick with Black Adam. He never lets me down. So, this is Comic Books This Week, or Connor Hawke This Week, it's hard to know, with Dr. Stanford Carpenter and myself, Hannibal Tabu, head comics reviewer at Bleeding Cool. We've discussed a couple of DC books. What's next up on our docket?
Amazing Spider-Man 83.
Okay.
Going over to the MCU.
Okay. Was it amazing?
It was.
It was?
It was. That's all I can say. It was.
Like not a good amazing.
Well, I didn't say amazing. All I said was.
Oh. I see what you did there, and I like it.
I just feel like I'm just. It's not. It wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
But it's. It wasn't terrible, but it's not doing it for me. I feel like, but I also feel like,
I dated somebody like that once.
Oh, ooh.
Like, well, you're here, Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's like as we're talking, I'm kind of going through it again, and I'm like trying to remember what it was that worked for me in it, and I'm like, you know what? The art is amazing. The artist is an amazing storyteller,
Yep.
really great visual storytelling. But it's just, I'm still trying to figure out why I care. So much of this was kind of a Peter Parker dream sequence while he was
hate holiday
in bed
episodes.
after.
I hate them.
Exactly, and I think that's part of it. It's just, I felt like I like last issue. I felt like was a filler issue, a filler throwaway issue that didn't necessarily fit with the rest of the vibe of the story.
Yep.
But then the vibe of the story wasn't all that great. So then the filler issue becomes like it becomes the copy that replaces the original. And now we're back into that like copy world that might replace the original but really won't. And I'm waiting for something, anything, but this.
At least they gave you like a Uncle Ben Captain America kind of riff here. I mean,
Yeah, they did.
That happened. I guess.
But there are but at the same time, there are a lot of beautiful parts to this. They
Yeah, it
just
looks
don't.
fine. The
Yeah.
window thing with the reflection, I thought that was a really good visual choice. But
Yes.
it's a poster, not a story.
Right. Exactly. I mean, we'll see what happens over time. But I think that, but I have to say this: Spider-Man is a really hard character to write because he's been around so long.
Sort of.
And of the characters that have been around for a long time, he's had the least amount of growth.
Yes, because there's certain characteristics, the Parker luck, the poverty, the certain characteristics that people believe are endemic to his character that they want to maintain, and that makes it hard to actually grow. Yes.
I feel like he's the adult who had a really good finish to high school who's still reliving his high school years.
The comic book Al Bundy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can respect that. That checks out.
And that's what I mean. Like
And
a lot
Peg
of
is a redhead. Oh my God.
Right. A lot of the characters that have been around a while, like Batman has grown and changed from when he was first introduced.
Yeah, because he got like 5 Robins now.
Yeah.
But he's still 40.
Exactly. But you know what? Here's the thing. Somehow, over all this time, Spider-Man's been around half as long as Batman. He hasn't had 2.5 mini Spider-Mans yet. And I guess that's what I'm saying. Is there things that can happen to kind of age a character without aging the character? And that's how I feel about that. That's my issue with Spider-Man. I don't feel like I can think back to, and that was that era of Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, because they keep dialing it back from the wedding to, he's had 2 different versions of a daughter named May Parker, Spinneret or whatever, and but no, now that's an alternate universe, and sure, okay, whatever. Yeah, I see where you're going there.
Some characters you got to let the characters grow a little. I'm not saying a lot, but just a little, and we haven't gotten that.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
They keep bringing him back to, I'm Spider-Man from Queens. I have really crappy luck.
I'm not gonna lie to you. My favorite Spider-Man was a Superior Spider-Man. When he was like, I'm a genius. I've used that genius to make a mountain of money, and I'm doing good things with that money. That was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's much better for Spider-Man. I love it. But the problem here, this Spider-Man, especially in this issue, is hampered by the fact that Ben Reilly is around. And if there's one thing I've learned about comics, if Ben Reilly's involved, nothing good is happening.
True.
He's the death knell of good stories. He almost can't make it work. Only his Vegas run of Scarlet Spider was even close.
But I'm gonna say this much. I think if they had stuck with Ben Reilly, I think we would have been in an interesting place right now. You can't have a character exist in the shadow of another character that long and ever be interesting.
There's a lot. My brain is jammed up from how many references that popped up.
Yeah.
It ain't good. No, it's not good. But like I said, I don't think there's anything new for Ben Reilly trying to be a bootleg Spider-Man to do. There's no new ground to cover there. Now, especially not when we already have Miles Morales. We've got Ghost Spider. We've got a whole bunch of other interesting ways to go.
Right. Well, I agree. I mean,
what? Miles Morales has 1.5 Robins because he's got Shift.
Exactly.
Wow. And
never
let the
Miles
kid beat
Miles Morales has grown more in like the past 10 years than Spider-Man has grown in the past 50.
Yep. New sibling, flirtatious relationships with Kamala Khan and with Ghost Spider. I mean, yeah, he's had like some stuff popping, yeah.
Yeah. And he's got a love life.
Yeah.
Well,
Peter's still got MJ, sort of, I guess. Whatever.
Well, once you go black.
Moving on. That's going to be a meh for me on Amazing Spider-Man. What's next?
I got to say that, too. Well, what do we have next? Let's do Death of Doctor Strange #4.
I got to say, I'm very sad about this book. This is another case I was mentioning earlier about a book that reminds me of the scene from I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, where he comes home with Anne Marie Johnson and she takes off her hair and her boobs and her butt and her leg, and I'm like, this is what you end up with at the end. After all that, this is what you end up with. And when they revealed the quote unquote big bad here, I was like, okay, if this is what we're doing, I guess you can't make this. Stop trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah.
It's not. You can't make fetch happen.
Yeah, I don't understand this one at all. I don't understand it at all, and and it's sad to me because I keep thinking. So let's go back to the MCU, like the cinematic universe, right?
Right.
Yes, Doctor Strange is basically the magical version of Iron Man, but you know what? I actually find the magical version of Iron Man. I find Doctor Strange much more interesting of a character than I find Tony Stark, because I feel like Tony Stark is like I feel like Tony Stark is essentially Mark Zuckerberg, and I don't have time for him, right?
Okay.
Whereas I feel like Doctor Strange is problematic, but he's actually, I feel like as a person he has a little bit of self-reflection.
So he's magical house MD.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I can work with that, right?
Okay.
I can work with that, and so I actually think that the Doctor Strange movie is one of the more underrated Marvel cinematic.
It's mind blowing.
I thought I really enjoyed it, and I think their version of Mordo should not just have his own Disney Plus series. He should be the Sorcerer Supreme. I think that he's like so interesting, right?
Hard agree.
But now I got to read this comic.
I mean, you picked anthropology. Nobody forced you into that.
What do you mean? What does anthropology have to do with it?
I mean, you said, I got to read this comic. Yes, you're a comic book anthropologist. Yes, you have to read this comic book. Nobody make you do that?
I feel like this comic is shitting on my cinematic experience.
Language. But yes, yeah, probably. Sure. I mean, I won't deny that. There's disappointment. If you go see some movie stuff and you go pick up a comic book, you might be in for some disappointment. I'm not gonna lie. That's true.
Yeah, but this more so than I mean, okay. The gulf between the Marvel Cinematic Doctor Strange and this Doctor Strange is greater than the gulf between the Amazing Spider-Man, which I just gave a bad review to, and Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I liked.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I think that they have forgotten what makes the character tick.
Yeah, I would not disagree with that. And I think this is a side quest, because the idea of a dead Doctor Strange when you literally have Doctor Strange as the backbone of the cinematic thing doesn't seem like it's illogical. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen. It doesn't seem plausible or sustainable. So I'm like,
exactly.
Really, you don't have any credibility walking in the door.
Yes, I agree. Yeah,
that's a meh for me. So I had the wind taken out of my sails, but it's like, oh god, okay, I guess.
But here's the thing: another example of I really love the art in Doctor Strange and Death of Doctor Strange. I love the art. I thought it's an interesting art. It's interesting art. It's kind of a throwback to Ditko without looking like they're trying to be Ditko.
Uh-huh.
I felt like they were onto something, and then I started reading it, and
I've had relationships like that too.
Yup. So I think I'm giving it a meh.
Hard agree.
Let's go to a world that I haven't been to in a while that I know that you love. So let's talk about Star Wars Bounty Hunters 19.
Okay. Star Wars. Here's the thing. There's a big thing going on with Marvel Star Wars things. Crimson Dawn, which you may remember from the Solo movie, is back, and it's being run by Kira, and it's got a plan. Their plan is to kill Palpatine and Vader because they're the worst and they're making the galaxy suck. Not an unfair plan, right? But they don't want to work with the rebels because they think the rebels are incompetent and half-wits, and they don't really have a plan for what happens afterwards. So the bounty hunters are caught in the middle of this because, the middle ground between the light side of the Force and the dark side of the Force have, they're just trying to make a living. They're just dudes with guns who are trying to make a living. They're not really, interested in the details of it. And this book, like many others, didn't do much to forward any particular storyline or any particular idea or any particular interest. That's really great. It just basically says, "Oh, I want you to look back at this. I'm trying to make Valence a thing. I want you to look back at this. So we're going to go through one of his stories." But they brought back TIE Defenders, for example, which were a big thing in Star Wars Rebels. And I was like, oh, that's cute, because I recognize it. But they're ugly ships. They're ugly, uninteresting ships that ultimately did not work out. There's a lot of things that it seems like treading water to me. And I love Star Wars. I'm an easy target, but they can't hit me here.
I could roll with the Defenders. I don't think they were ugly ships.
Stanford. They're grotesque. How do you land them?
But they're spaceships. Spaceships don't have to land. They're designed for space.
You have to land them. You literally have to land them all the time. You land TIE fighters on planets. You land TIE fighters on ships.
And how do you land a regular TIE fighters with those dippy pieces of wing?
The bottoms of it just sit on the ground. It's super easy.
Well, I can roll with it. But here's the thing. Reading this was strange for me because it made me realize the problem with the comic series, right?
Come through. Mm-hmm.
Is that it's the problem it's the problem of being in a franchise that spends all its time looking backwards and not running forward. I mean, those of you who've ever run track, one thing that they tell you never to do is you never look back.
Right.
Why? Because when you look back, it shortens your stride, and then the person who you're looking back at ends up in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's the problem here. So, this whole story around balance, I thought was kind of interesting. This idea that he's been taken apart and put back together, that he idolizes this Imperial officer. And the Imperial officer kind of lets him down, kind of like never meet your idols. And that's like just the first couple of pages. I'm like, this is kind of interesting, right?
Yeah.
But then we get to the part where like he crashes his TIE fighter into the ship and we hit this point where like half his face is ripped off.
Yeah.
And he's like,
happens a lot.
don't worry about that because you've got synthetic healing skin. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, well, damn, if he can have synthetic healing skin and he on a low budget, how come Darth Vader's walking around all messed up?
Oh, actually, I know the answer to that. The answer to that. The Darth Vader's armor. Do you remember when Speedball became Penance?
Yes.
Okay. Darth Vader's armor is kind of like that. It's literally intended to keep him in pain. Because the pain and the rage and the hatred fuels his power. So Darth Vader's walking, but the difference is that Darth Vader, like, if you shove Darth Vader out of an airlock, he's gonna be like, so I'm gonna use the magnets on my boots to come back to the ship, cut a hole in it, and come back in and murder you. Valence can't do that. Darth Vader's not trying to look aesthetically choosing. His look was chosen by the Emperor.
Yeah, but I guess my bigger issue is, okay, I guess we can explain away Darth Vader. But there are a whole bunch of characters that, like, you can't. I just feel like what's happened is this looking back, they did something that made the story interesting, right? That makes me think, well, why aren't people using that later on, right? And that's the thing. It's like sometimes it's like the looking back actually creates the story problems. I
True.
mean,
Ashoka.
Right. And I'm looking, and that just struck me like right then and there. And then it also had me thinking about Star Trek Discovery, right? Which show I love, right? And that Star Trek Discovery was starting to become a little hard to like view because it was starting to like contradict the original, the original series and all the series that came after it, right?
Yep.
And then what they did was they sent them into the future.
Yep.
And since they've been in the future, it has been an amazing ride. Like this last episode was just amazing.
President Karen.
Right. Exactly. I mean, but I was thinking about it, and it's because now we're back to having an endless horizon, and we're not looking back anymore.
Yes. Yes, and when we do, like, they're like, oh, we'll see if we can get the Voyager to help out. I was like, oh, that's a cute little reference. But you know that Harry Kim is not on that ship. Harry Kim's been dead for hundreds of years. You know that.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's and that's what makes it work, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't think they. I mean, if it was me, I probably wouldn't have sent them that far in the future.
You had to because you got to go past the temporal war. You got to go past that.
Okay. Yeah,
There was a temporal war, civil war or something that was about 400 years, 400 or 500 years before Discovery, this current time period, and you had to get past that, or you can't. They wouldn't let you into the future.
Right. I guess so.
Those guys were jerks.
Yeah, I just feel like, I'm gonna be honest. I just feel like there's something I wouldn't have necessarily sent them that far, but it doesn't matter to me. They made the choice, and I love where they're at, right? Mm-hmm. And it actually gives this. It actually, what's interesting is like how I view the older stories, which I like, versus these newer stories. Like the older stories, since I'm a Star Trek fan, I kind of know what's coming next, and I know what they can't do. Mm-hmm. So I can kind of, by process of elimination, figure out where the story's going.
Can't do that with Discovery.
They can't do it now.
Nope.
Right? Because the future's open, and I get that, and I also realize it's important that they did it that way. Why? Because also, I mean, they still left there to be an open horizon for Star Trek Picard and all the other stuff they want to do, right?
Yeah.
But I think that that's really important, and it's something that it's just something that's being lost. And it's, I mean, prequels are great, but I mean, there have been more prequels than sequels as far as Star Wars is concerned.
Yes, and there's a couple reasons for that, but because I'm a Star Wars person.
Management?
Partially. I'm a Star Wars person to the core. To the core of me, I'm a Star Wars person, and I know that there's an enormous demand for stories in certain directions, stories about certain things. The Book of Boba Fett came out this week, and people are slavishly going over every detail of what happened because it fills in holes on something that they didn't know. And it dances between the raindrops somewhat, and that's ultimately the problem with this Crimson Dawn story. Crimson Dawn organizes people from every level of society to attack to do this grandiose effort to attack the Empire, to attack the Emperor, to attack Vader, and ultimately fail without leaving any sign of themselves. That is a difficult set of raindrops to dance between, but it is definitely the sort of trick that you have to pull off to get people's attention. The High Republic has the same problem, right? The High Republic, which is a gigantic publishing effort, posits the idea of the Jedi at the height of their power, and the greatest threat that they face is people with guns who have better hyperdrives than them. I'm like, what? A Jedi Padawan is a weapon of mass destruction, and you're struggling with people who have, checks notes, guns? Really? This is your thing? So there are challenges with stewarding a franchise this big when you have those kinds of limitations, especially when those limitations come from a corporate standpoint. There's only so far you can go. So you try to dig in on, let's make Valance a thing. Valance was so big in the 70s Star Wars comics. People loved him back then. Did they? But...
Well, I mean, I think, and that's also the problem with the sequel series, right? Like, actually, the sequel series, what would have been really interesting if the sequel series had been about, if that had been about Crimson Dawn. Because what usually happens when you take out the power, it creates a vacuum.
Yes.
And crime flourishes. That would have been interesting. Like,
but the problem is, Kira would have had to been like, how old is Harrison Ford now? She'd have had to been in her 70s. You had to recast a different actress as Kira, and people love Emilia Clarke. So.
You could always come up with a reason for someone in that world for someone to stay looking young.
I mean, there is a reason, and I make this joke all the time, that Obi-Wan went from Ewan McGregor to Alec Guinness in like 19 years because he did not have what I call the Mandalorian skin regimen.
Exactly.
The helmets have a moisturizer built in, because if you look at Bo-Katan looks amazing, man. She looks like she just stepped off a runway from the day she was fighting in the Clone Wars. That was 35 years ago.
Well,
She
and
looks
that's
amazing. So yeah, you need to get you one of them Mandalorian helmets because they got that Neutrogena going on in there.
that Bobagina.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that that's the story. That's the story that would have been more interesting because it wouldn't have been about retelling the many deaths of the Death Star.
Well, the
You know,
sequel, this what you call the sequel series was not a series. It was a slapdash a group of ideas that ran into each other and held each other hostage. It's not an actual series. There was no plan. J.J. Abrams admitted to that.
right?
So it's canon now, and we have to accept it. But it was never a plan. It's never logical and never made any sense. Which is why the Mandalorian works so much better because it's at an almost open horizon. You know, it can't screw up anything that leads you to the Force Awakens. But
Right.
there's still a lot of room to do stuff in there. When Luke picks up Grogu, it's like, oh, you're gonna study to be a Jedi. Oh, wait a minute. Oh no, are you gonna get killed? Oh no.
But I agree. I think that like that was the problem with that. That was the problem with that story. I think that the other thing you could have done with Emilia Clarke is you could have had Kira's daughter running the show, and she could be the spitting image of her mom.
I've seen that gag.
Yeah, but I'm just saying there's ways to get around that. I'm just saying that the interest is that was the interesting story that was really that I felt was being set up, which is okay, if the rebel takes over, if the rebellion knocks out the Empire, then what? There's no way to seamlessly take over anything that's that big and spanning that far. It's
Exactly.
like you could come over and you could take over DC and put whoever you want to in charge, but Utah ain't gonna give a shit.
And they talk about that. The canon actually discusses that both in Star Wars comics and Marvel and in the film that, the rebels, what's the line from Hamilton? Well, let me put it. Governing is harder than winning. Governing is harder than revolution because it's longer, it's more boring, it takes a lot more attention to detail. And winning is one thing, but governing is harder. The Emperor was ready for that. He was built for government. He was like, no, I got this. I can run this. Yeah. And even there, he made horrible mistakes in promoting the incompetent to places where they could do damage. And that was problematic. The rebels were drastically less qualified than he is. And the whole galaxy continues to burn while Canto Bight makes money off of every second of it. And that's, as you see here with this specific book, this Bounty Hunters book, that the Empire created Valance, they destroyed Valance, they threw him away, he came back for vengeance, and they don't even care. They're like, your vengeance means nothing. It's nothing to the grand engine that is the Empire. And
that's the thing that gets me about it. Like that was the thing that always got me. It's like, okay, so you destroyed the Death Star. Well, this empire spans thousands of planets. Okay, so
thousands
now you
of
got
systems. Yes.
Right. So I don't see how you ever take it over, and I don't even see how the Empire really had that much control in the first place.
The Empire, well, again, this is all explained canonically because I'm a Star Wars dude and I know this inside and out. The Empire took enormous amounts of money. I mean, like, if you think about the U.S. defense black budget, which is in the neighborhood of 800 billion or so, I mean, it's in the high billions. I can't remember the details, but and they're not allowed to look at it. They just, they're like, vote yes or no on it. The Empire had no pretense of having to pretend like, oh, I have to save some money for Social Security, or oh, I have to save some money for CalAIM, or I have to save some money for Medi-Cal or whatever. I forget what it's called outside of California, but anyway, the Empire was like, no, we're using all the money to make Star Destroyers, and we're using all the money to make Star people, and we're going to send them out to steal things to make more money, to make more Star Destroyers.
I get that, and that's part of why the Mandalorian works, right? So
yeah.
So the issue with the Mandalorian, what they raise is that at a certain point, these places are so remote that they don't care what happens with the Empire.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't affect them, and that's what I mean by it's like a lot of this stuff doesn't affect people. Like even someone going around being able to kill entire worlds, right? I mean, if you were to scale this down to Earth, That's like us caring that somebody can destroy a city in Indonesia, right? I mean, we obviously would, but I'm saying that it's like that's a world. It isn't even that.
Yes.
If you look at the size of
It's like a
the
neighborhood,
Galactic
like somebody
Empire.
saying they could destroy Cicero.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're like, okay, so it's bad, it's tragic. We don't like having that many deaths, but it's not like, oh my gosh, you messed up this neighborhood. Now we got to like worry about you. Like, I just don't see how like what the rebels did was really all that significant, because the Death Star itself was not all that significant in a place with that many places to live.
Yeah, you're right. And this was the problem that the rebels realized trying to fight the Imperial remnants as they went down and so on and so forth, that it became this never-ending slog, whereas the Emperor, first of all, he had a lot of time to sit and do nothing but plan. He planned out a lot of things. He made alliances. He cut the right deals with people. He had to deal with the Hutts. He had to deal with he had this deal on Sereno where he took over that planet with Count Dooku's help, and used their fortune for a lot of things. He took over the Kuat shipyards. I mean, there was so many things that he had in place the day that he won, ready to roll out. Right. And he had spent years with the war machinery building something. This looks like an AT-AT. It looks like a Star Destroyer. It looks like a TIE fighter. It looks like, so he had years and years of the machinery already cranked up. So he didn't have that problem. The rebels destroyed a lot of that machinery, and the rebels had no time to relax and quietly take meetings and set things up. They were like, fight. And the difference is clear there. The difference in the galaxy that comes after is clear there. And
right.
This all kind of shows at a grander state, because if you go from the first second of Phantom Menace to the last second of The Rise of Skywalker, nothing has changed on Canto Bight. Everything is exactly the same.
Right.
Everybody's exactly as happy as they ever were. This shows the true static nature of the Star Wars that we're engaged in, that there is no opportunity for change. There is no real difference. And like DJ says, like Empire, Rebels, Republic, whatever. It doesn't really make a difference. Or like Bill Burr's character said in The Mandalorian, when there's a boot on your neck, you don't really look up to see what color the armor is. It doesn't really matter.
And I think that's the issue. Like even now, it's like even the way we talk about our world, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. We're not taking over China. China's not taking over us by military means, because there's no way we can't figure out how to occupy Vietnam.
Right.
I mean, Russia can't figure out how to occupy Afghanistan.
Nobody can figure out how to occupy Afghanistan.
But that's my point, right? Like, this idea that you can occupy and take a place over is misplaced even on a planetary scale, let alone a galactic scale. Because there's just too many parts to keep track of. Like, okay, so you're the emperor and you're making plans, right? Well, you can make plans if you've got over 1,000 planets. You just don't. And let's say you can take over planets at the rate of 1 per day. A year only gets you 365.
Well, and the Emperor's plans were much grander than that. The Emperor could take over 50 to 60 planets in half a day, based on what he was doing, with the literal number of troops. If you had any idea how many troops rolled out of Camino between the start
I get it, but I'm just talking about the logistics of occupying those types of spaces.
Well, that's just the thing. Look at Ryloth. You don't have to occupy everyone. You have to empower the people who are there and occupy them. They occupy for you and send tribute. That's what happened on Ryloth.
Exactly.
That's what happened on...
Ultimately, and this is where I'm getting at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, those are political moves. Those are not military moves.
They're backed by military, but they're ultimately political moves. You're right. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that's kind of like that. That's where the fantasy of a galactic empire kind of undercuts the very fantasy that they're trying to push, right? That you can take things over, something can be taken over in the first place to even be liberated in the second place. But maybe I'm thinking way too big on this.
What you're not appreciating is the scale of the empire. In Star Wars,
I'm appreciating the scale of the empire. That's why I'm like, the rebels can't take it back.
Well,
there's nothing to take. It's just too big.
Well, that's just the thing. The rebels didn't take it back. The rebels knocked off the head of the snake, and honestly, Palpatine kept a lot of things to himself. This is noted in the Book of Sith. This is noted in lots of places.
Right.
That Palpatine didn't really tell people how a lot of it works. So when Palpatine died at Endor, a lot of people were like, well, how does this fleet deal with this fleet? We don't know. How does this planet, how do we keep them under control? Because we don't know. How does it, and it all started to fall apart. So the issue wasn't so much that the rebels could take it, was that they could make the Empire lose its grip. And that was ultimately doable, but it wasn't ultimately sustainable in terms of peace because you didn't disarm it. You knocked off the head of the snake, but it's a hydra, so there's more heads and more venom coming.
I get that. But
and it's a big hydra. It's like not 7 heads, it's like 7 million heads.
True. So here's the thing. I know we're about to wind up.
Okay.
Something I'd like to make a plea for in the future is I didn't get a chance to really read Echolands, but I want us to talk about that book.
I can't understand it. I'm not gonna lie. I've tried to read it like 3 or 4 times. I don't get it.
The thing is, it doesn't read digitally at all. I want to actually,
Well, that's how they send it to me.
I know. Well, the funny thing is, I actually looked at it in the store, and I'm like, this is really interesting, but it doesn't work digitally because of the screen ratio does not allow you to really even look at it on the screen, or the size ratio.
I don't understand that.
Because it's actually, the book itself is long and skinny, and then it's divided up into splash pages.
They did that with Nightwing. They nailed it. Nightwing. What's the problem?
Right, but the format of the book, it's actually not the same shape. It's a different shape. It's like each page is the shape of 8.5 by 11 envelope. Okay.
I don't see why that would give me a problem reading it digitally.
Yeah, I'll say this. I had trouble reading it digitally. I'm actually going to go in. I'm going to plop some money down and buy the books.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do that. But you did want to talk about, to sum up, I love Star Wars, but Bounty Hunters is a meh for me. So to sum up. You did want to talk about Blue Flame, though, right?
Oh, yes, I forgot about that one. Well, that tells you something right there.
It's a weird book, dude. It's weird. I don't really understand it.
Yeah, this whole thing of like him being kind of on trial amongst the aliens about whether or not these heroes were good. It's, you know what, the concept sounds great, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, because what it seems like they're trying to have happen is that there's a quote unquote variant of him that is in space arguing for the destiny of mankind. And then there's another variant of him that was crippled while being a vigilante with his idiot friends and trying to get his life back together. But somehow both of them know about each other, and both of them are basically each other vibrating in different ways. So like, you know, a dream state, one is a dream state, one is a... But it's not really clear about which one is real, how it works. None of it's very clearly depicted, and that's very confusing to me because... Each individual story has great value, but together they're gibberish.
Well, but here's the bigger problem is arguing for whether or not a world gets to exist when you don't know the world.
Yeah.
These type of stories work. There's 2 ways you can make this type of story work. You can either make this story work in existence of a world that's been running for a while, so that when they look back on the past, it's like, oh, this is what I remember reading. Oh, this is how they're interpreting it, right?
Yeah.
Or you have it be, we have to judge these species, or you do it more of a journey through time and space where you say, we have to judge this world, and then they take us to go into each part of the world for judgment, right? So let's go check out Chicago, let's go check out Philadelphia, let's go check out Provo. Right, and it's just like, you know what I mean. That would be the way to do it.
Can we skip Provo? I don't know if I want to do that.
You know, I had to put someplace in there that might not come out so good. You know,
I was going to say Belgrade, but okay.
Okay, well, but you see my point. Like, I don't know enough about the world to care whether or not they're good or bad.
You mean this world that we're on right now?
No, the world in this comic book.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like we're all on trial, but it's like if you're gonna do, it's like it's kind of like some of the problems we ran into with Trial of Magneto, right?
Yeah.
There are certain things that have to be in place once you are talking about a trial. You have to have a defense and a prosecution, both of which you can sympathize with.
Yeah.
And if you're defending a world, you have to have a reason for sympathizing with that world prior to its being mentioned in the trial.
True.
That's why all the procedurals that we see, right? The courtroom procedurals, they focus on the lawyers, not so much on the clients, right?
Yes.
Because we don't have enough time to get to know and care about the clients enough.
Yeah, that's true. Law and Order always struggled with that, I thought.
Well, what they do is they say that we're learning about the clients, but it's really learning about how the lawyer is reacting to the clients,
yes.
Who the lawyer goes home to, what the lawyer's backstory is, and how the lawyer feels about this particular client, right? And that's the problem here is we don't have enough. And 6 issues is not enough space to create sympathy for a character. Like, so you can do the trial.
Well, I mean, I don't believe that's true.
For a long time.
I don't believe that it can easily be done. It can be done in 1 issue if you're able to nail it.
Well, they didn't nail it. I have trouble. I'm going to be honest. In general, I have trouble with these kinds of stories because I need to know, especially if it's a trial. Because when you introduce a trial, you're talking about different versions. You're talking about the defense and the prosecution having different versions of the same story, right?
Yeah.
So if you have different versions of the same story of a character that you don't know before that story, it makes it really hard to pull off.
That's totally fair.
And that's my issue with this book is like, okay, there's a trial. I don't know why I should care.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. We're about to wrap up. So Blue Flame was a meh for me. I'm also and I was saying this before we started, I just read that Betty White passed away before the show started, and that just, as the old folk in my life had me sitting in front of Golden Girls so many times, and seeing her in earlier shows that she was in, that would hit me a little bit. She never turned out to be racist. She never turned out to be a problem. So I was a little sad about that one.
That's why I was running a little late. I had to do a posting about that.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, that was a tough one, especially on the last day of the year.
Yeah, we couldn't even got out 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was only a couple days away from being 100 years old.
Yeah.
Because she's a January birthday.
Yeah, she is. You're right.
Yeah, that was a hard one. Yeah. Betty White, Desmond Tutu, all in the past couple of days.
So that's the last comic books this week of 2021. We'll be back next Friday with more flavor like this. Maybe we'll. I always think those year-long wrap-ups are kind of like. I mean, should we bother doing one of those? I don't know. What do you think?
Do a year-long wrap-up.
Do comic books last year or something?
We could do that. I mean, I think it could also be something. What could also be fun to do comic books this year, like what we'd like to see in our truest of true selves, right?
I'm always reluctant to do that because that sounds like somebody waiting for a pitch that they're going to steal from me and then go make money off of and do it wrong. But okay, I mean, I guess.
Nah, okay, we could stay away from that. I mean, I'm thinking more general, like things I would like to see in terms of like I want to see a year without crossovers.
Yeah. I would. I know with Timeless coming up, that can't happen. But we are who we are.
Yep. Oh, that was the one book we didn't talk about.
Oh, we didn't get to Timeless? Do you have time?
No, we did not. Yes, I did.
Do you have time for Timeless? I was mad that Malcolm Merritt was nowhere involved with this book. I was immediately mad about that. I was like, what?
I'll tell you, I'm interested in Kang because now we got a Black King in the MCU. But I thought this was there's some things I thought were really interesting about this book. I think that the idea of like a professor of supervillain studies, of course, it's going to resonate with me, right? Especially knowing that one of my publications is all about supervillains.
And you haven't spoken to me? No, but I think this is the best characterization I think that Kang has ever gotten. I think this is, when I really saw, I feel like I really saw Kang here. And that's funny given that he just had a 5-issue, basically, origin miniseries. But I think this, in one issue, did better than all of that in saying this is who Kang is.
Well, I felt like the miniseries told me his story, but this one told me who he is.
Yeah, that's very accurate. That's very accurate. And I really enjoyed that. However, if all of this is just, a shoehorn to bring in one character, like as Marvel's Dr. Manhattan, I'm not interested in that. I don't want that. Why are we doing this? What's the good of this? What's the point?
Well, I think we need to do spoiler alert, and then we can talk about it. We can spoil away, which is 3, 2, 1. They're bringing in Miracle Man, or Marvel Man, whichever you want to call him.
Yeah, and that's a big spoiler for this, so sorry if that was a thing for you. But Timeless introduces this character that has not been in print for, decades? New stories.
Since late 80s, early 90s.
No, they did a little short thing a couple years ago when they first got the license back. But here's the thing. Who cares? That's like me saying, hey, I'm reintroducing the what was that one, Charlton one that I saw that was completely... I'm reintroducing the Jester from Charlton Comics. So?
Well, to me, there's another problem with this, which is... So, Miracle Man is basically a Marvel remake of Captain Marvel, the Shazam version.
Yes.
And in his storyline, we find that he becomes corrupted by the power because... That's what the British do with American superheroes, right?
Oh, yeah. That's what Americans do with American superheroes.
Well, we're just copying the Brits.
Yeah,
But
we're just a copy of the Brits.
Here's the problem. So we got a character that's a copy of a character that was originally accused of being a copy of Superman.
Yes.
So we got a copy of a copy. And... The thing is, since then, they created a copy of Miracle Man in the name of The Sentry, right? And did a whole series of stories with them. And now they're going to bring back the copy of the copy to replace the copy of the copy of the copy.
Yes.
What could go wrong aside from everything?
Literally everything could go wrong. There's no there left. All of the meat and grist has been taken off the bone by the replication process. You're absolutely right. And
Marvel is not a world for Superman, and that's what Sentry and that's what Miracle Man are.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
ask
Marvel
Hyperion.
Marvel is a world that's actually built around parity between characters, not around the disparities.
Yeah.
Like DC handles the fact that you've got certain characters that fight on the ground and certain characters that fight worlds, but Marvel doesn't function like that.
I mean, yeah, they try to have Thor hang out with Hawkeye, but it's still kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. So yeah, I just don't think that I don't have a lot of hope for it. I think that it's kind of like it's a gimmick, all right, but I feel like to the extent to which there was a gimmick that they could play with, they kind of shot their wad with Sentry.
Yeah. Or Blue Marvel, or the stalled Hyperions. There's a million Superman attempts at Marvel that have not clicked because it's difficult to click this derivative nature. They're not different enough. They don't have enough distinctiveness. The best thing about Hyperion, this creed that he had, was never even really brought up. The Blue Marvel, his whole racial history, he never ever addresses. He never talks about it. The Sentry's mental illness is treated as a weapon more than an actual character element. I mean, if they treated the Sentry like Moon Knight, he might be more interesting, but he's not.
Well, but the whole basis of Superman is that he's the most powerful man on Earth. And Marvel is not going to create a most powerful man on Earth.
They did that. They said the Sentry's that. But then they also said Hyperion's the same, and then they also said the Blue Marvel is the same.
But that's the thing. The universe is structured around a series of ideas that don't allow for a most powerful man on Earth.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work in the way it does with DC. I think that even like Hyperion even is something that kind of comes close. I mean, I don't remember what his creed was.
Oh, I've got it here because actually I love it.
Okay.
Hyperion's creed, because when I read it the first time, I was like, this is the best thing in comics. This should really be everything. His creed is truth without compromise, thought without error, and all things for the betterment of the whole. I know it's like, whoa, that's kind of cold, Flair. But
yeah,
it's hard to do in real life because the second you start with truth without compromise, then you can't have a secret identity. You got to start there.
Yeah.
Thought without error, that means you got to figure it out before you even punch somebody. That's not superhero comics. And that's certainly not Hyperion's life.
Right.
And he certainly has absolutely never done all things for the betterment of the whole. Definitely in his own miniseries with this, they recently re-revealed this creed, and he was like, no, I'm a god. I don't have to talk to you about it. And I was like, no, that's not for the betterment of the whole. That's for the betterment of yourself. So he can't live up to the creed, at least according to the writers that they've assigned thus far, that he has there. If he could, that would be fascinating.
Right. Or even if he was trying.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but I think that this is the problem, right? It's like it's just not a good fit. But it's also not only is it not a good fit, but there's too many other characters that do the same thing. So how do you play around with Miracle Man being the most powerful being on Earth when you've got the Sentry, Hyperion, and Blue Marvel hanging out?
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna real quickly because I just got a note from somebody who's listening somewhere. Blah blah blah. This is who is this? Jake was saying that Hyperion's creed sounds kind of fascist. In his application of it, it was always supposed to be a personal thing. That it is not a societal idea. It's not society has to live this way, but every individual should accept this as a personal motto, as a personal perspective. So it's less fascistic and more intended as a kind of a, oh, I'm seeing what Back Channel does. That's cool. More intended as you know, an idea to better oneself. In the way that they say Superman is supposed to be this example that we will follow and one day stand with him in the sun. That's the idea behind it, but they had no idea how to execute it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm just like, I don't see. I'm not excited about the introduction of Miracle Man.
I don't want it. I don't want it because especially if we get Kid Miracle Man, the psychotic version, I definitely don't want that.
Yeah, I mean, seeing a psychotic Shazam running around is just not what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I'm struggling with what they're doing with Mary Marvel on Young Justice right now. Because, you know, Mary Marvel's supposed to be the best of them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, they don't call her Mary Marvel. They call her, I forgot what the heck they call her. It's something else. But anyway, she's Mary. Mama call her Mary Marvel. I'm going to call her Mary Marvel.
All right.
So.
Oh, well. Well, this is the last comic book this week of the year.
It is. And we want to thank everybody for listening. We want to thank you for being here. We will definitely be back with more content. I am finally getting caught up, so I'll get the older ones on YouTube because I've been slacking on that because my life has been bananas. And yeah, we appreciate you, and we're definitely devoted to the art form. Stanford and I have both dedicated decades of our lives to the study and furtherment of this art form and this form of expression. And we'll be back and hope that you'll be back too. Right on?
Yep.
I miss
See you
anything?
next year.
All right, hang on. Jake's really still worried about that Hyperion fascism. Hyperion's more of an idiot than a fascist, honestly. But, you know, there's some mildly... I took the creed because it's something that I wanted to adopt for myself. But, you know, even there... Spirit knows I got to compromise. I tell my kids, no, there's no gifts here in this closet. No. Okay. And the gifts are in the closet. So, all right, y'all be safe. Please wear your mask. Please get vaccinated. Please take care of yourselves. And we will see you in 2022. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.